The Galactic Council chamber stretched across 3 kilometers of polished obsidian, its ceiling lost in darkness that seemed to swallow starlight itself. Representatives from 1,000 worlds sat in perfect silence as the eldest spoke, their ancient voice carrying the weight of eons across the vast space. "Children of the stars," the eldest began, their form barely visible through the shimmering energy field that had sustained them for millions of years. "I have witnessed the birth and death of galaxies. I have seen species rise from primitive mud to touch the face of eternity, only to fall into dust when they forgot the lessons of humility." Ambassador Zektar of the Hegemony shifted nervously in his biomechanical throne. As one of the youngest races to achieve interstellar travel, the Hegemony had only recently earned their seat at the Council. Their aggressive expansion across 17 systems had raised concerns, but their technological prowess could not be denied. "Great Eldest," Zektar spoke, his voice amplified by neural transmitters, "we have come seeking guidance about the Outer Rim territories. Our scouts have identified promising worlds for colonization, but we've encountered resistance from primitive species." A ripple of interest passed through the assembly. The crystalline beings of Xerion chimed softly, their harmonic language creating waves of meaning that the universal translators struggled to interpret. The gas cloud entities of the Nebula Confederacy pulsed with bioluminescent patterns of curiosity. The eldest remained silent for long moments, and when they spoke again, their voice carried a note that made even the most ancient delegates lean forward. "Show me these worlds, young Hegemony." The chamber's central holographic array activated, displaying a 3-dimensional map of the galaxy's outer spiral arm. Zektar manipulated the controls with his 4 primary appendages, highlighting systems in amber light. These 17 systems contain Class M worlds with primitive inhabitants. Our initial surveys suggest they possess resources that could fuel our expansion for centuries. The inhabitants are barely past their industrial age, scattered across multiple continents with no unified planetary government. They call their world— He paused to check his datapad. Earth. The word fell into the chamber like a stone into still water. The eldest's energy field suddenly flared, brilliant white light piercing the perpetual gloom. Several delegates recoiled, their various sensory organs overwhelmed by the unexpected radiance. "Earth?" The eldest's voice now carried harmonics that hadn't been heard in living memory, frequencies that made the chamber's walls themselves vibrate. "You said Earth?" "Yes, Great Eldest. A blue-green world, 3rd planet from a yellow star. The inhabitants call themselves humans. They appear to be standard carbon-based bipedal mammals, though they show unusual aggression for their technological level, nothing we cannot handle." The silence that followed stretched so long that some delegates began to wonder if the eldest had entered one of their contemplative trances. But when they spoke again, their words carried the force of absolute command. "You will not touch that world. You will not enter that system. You will forget its coordinates and strike it from your star charts." Zektar's mandibles clicked in confusion. "Great Eldest, I do not understand. Our analysis shows no significant military capability. Their most advanced weapons are crude chemical explosives and primitive nuclear devices. Their space travel consists of short-range chemical rockets. They cannot even leave their home system." "You understand nothing," the eldest replied, their energy field now pulsing with colors that had no names in any living language. "I have watched this galaxy for 7 million years. I have seen the Vorthan Empire span 1,000 worlds, only to be consumed by their own hubris. I witnessed the Silicon Collective achieve perfect unity of thought, then dissolve into madness when they lost the ability to dream. I observed the quantum dancers transcend physical reality itself, leaving behind only echoes of their songs. The holographic display shifted, showing ancient star maps and archaeological records. Images of dead civilizations flashed across the chamber. Vast cities turned to glass, entire star systems stripped of life, artifacts of incomprehensible power floating in the void. Each of these great civilizations fell to the same mistake. They believed that technological superiority was the measure of true power. They looked upon primitive worlds and saw only resources to be claimed, populations to be conquered or enslaved. They never learned the most fundamental truth of existence. "What truth, great eldest?" asked Ambassador Thys of the aquatic domains, her gills fluttering with nervous anticipation. "That some sleeping giants should never be awakened." The eldest's projection shifted, showing not the grand chamber where they truly resided, but a memory from the deep past. The assembled delegates found themselves looking through ancient eyes at a world of impossible beauty, vast forests that covered entire continents, oceans that sparkled like liquid diamonds, and creatures of such diversity and wonder that several delegates gasped in appreciation. "Long ago, when your species were still learning to make fire, I encountered the humans. Not on Earth, they had not yet reached the stars. But I saw their potential in ways that your simple scans cannot detect." The memory shifted, showing early humans struggling against impossible odds. Predators with claws like swords, natural disasters that would have destroyed most species, ice ages that lasted for millennia. Yet humanity endured, adapted, thrived. They were not the strongest species on their world. They were not the fastest, not the largest, not the most naturally armed. By any rational analysis, they should have been extinct within a few generations. Yet they survived everything their world could throw at them, and more. The images showed humanity's progress through the ages, the discovery of agriculture, the building of cities, the creation of art and music and literature that somehow transcended the physical realm. But it was not their survival that caught my attention. It was how they survived. When faced with extinction, they did not simply adapt, they transformed the very nature of their challenges. When great beasts hunted them, they did not simply hide or run. They made themselves into greater hunters. When the ice came to freeze their world, they did not simply endure. They learned to make fire dance to their will. The memory showed moments of human history that made even hardened galactic diplomats feel something approaching awe. Scientists working by candlelight to unlock the secrets of disease. Explorers crossing frozen wastelands to map unknown continents. Artists creating beauty in the midst of war and suffering. Every obstacle became a tool. Every enemy became a teacher. Every defeat became the foundation for greater victory. This is not mere resilience. This is the alchemy of turning absolute disadvantage into unassailable strength. Zektar's confusion deepened. But great eldest, they remain primitive. Our analysis shows they still fight among themselves, still struggle with basic resource allocation, still haven't achieved planetary unity. How can such a divided species pose any threat? The eldest's energy field darkened, and when they spoke, their voice carried the weight of eons of hard-won wisdom. "You mistake noise for weakness, young hegemony. Yes, humans fight among themselves, but observe the nature of their conflicts. They do not simply seek to destroy their enemies, they seek to prove the superiority of their ideas. Their wars are laboratories where they test the limits of their ingenuity. Their competitions drive them to heights of achievement that unified species never reach." The display showed human technological progress, compressed into a timeline that revealed its terrifying acceleration. From the first crude tools to spaceflight in the span of mere millennia, a blink of an eye in galactic terms. In the time it has taken your species to perfect interstellar travel, humans have gone from throwing rocks to splitting atoms. In the time it took the crystalline collective to achieve perfect harmony, humans have created technologies that reshape matter at the molecular level. They do in decades what most species require centuries to accomplish. But surely, interjected Ambassador Varthok of the Machine Intelligence. Their primitive social structures limit their potential. Our analysis suggests they are centuries away from planetary unification. The eldest's response carried a note of something that might have been amusement, if such ancient beings were capable of humor. You assume that unification is necessary for power. This is the error that has destroyed countless civilizations. Humans do not seek unity. They seek diversity within cooperation. Each of their nations, each of their cultures, each of their belief systems becomes a different approach to solving the same fundamental challenges of existence. The display zoomed in on Earth, showing the planet's surface in stunning detail. Cities that sparkled with electric light, transportation networks that spanned continents, communication systems that connected billions of minds across the globe. Where you see chaos, I see the most sophisticated distributed problem-solving network the galaxy has ever produced. Every human mind is a unique processing node in a vast biological computer that never sleeps, never stops seeking new solutions, never accepts that any challenge is truly impossible. The assembled delegates began to shift uneasily as the implications of the eldest's words became clear. Several species that prided themselves on their advanced civilizations found themselves reconsidering their assumptions about primitive worlds. Great Eldest, Zektar said slowly, are you suggesting that humans pose a military threat to advanced civilizations with their primitive weapons and limited technology? I am suggesting something far more dangerous than military threat, the eldest replied. I am warning you about a species that transforms every interaction into an opportunity for growth. If you attack them, they will not simply defend. They will learn from your weapons and create better ones. If you try to conquer them, they will not simply resist. They will study your methods and develop superior strategies. If you attempt to trade with them as equals, they will not simply participate. They will revolutionize the very concept of galactic commerce. The memory display shifted one final time, showing glimpses of human potential that existed only in the eldest's long sight. Technologies that could reshape solar systems, ideas that could fundamentally alter the nature of consciousness itself. Achievements that would make the greatest galactic civilizations look like children playing with simple toys. This is why I give you one command, and one command only 3 cycles had passed since the eldest's warning echoed through the Galactic Council chambers, but Zektar could not forget the pull of that blue-green world. The hegemony's expansion had slowed. Their fleets redirected to other sectors, but the memory of Earth's abundant resources gnawed at him like a parasite. Standing before the massive viewport of his flagship, the Dominance, Zektar watched the stars wheel slowly past. 17 other worlds had fallen to hegemony rule in the past cycles, their populations either enslaved or eliminated, their resources feeding the ever-growing war machine. Yet none had satisfied the hegemony's hunger like Earth promised to. "Admiral?" came the voice of his tactical coordinator, Sub-Commander Velnash. "The long-range scouts have returned from the restricted sector." Zektar's 4 eyes swiveled toward his subordinate. "I gave no orders for reconnaissance in that sector." "No, sir, but the scouts encountered something unusual. They request immediate debriefing." The scout team leader, a scarred veteran named Kexthor, stood at attention in the briefing chamber. His usual confidence was replaced by something Zektar had never seen in hegemony military. Uncertainty tinged with what almost looked like respect. "Report," Zektar commanded. "Sir, we were conducting routine patrol along the outer rim when we detected artificial transmissions from the Forbidden System. Radio frequencies, primitive by our standards but extensive. The humans have developed planet-wide communication networks." Zektar's mandibles clicked impatiently. "This is hardly news. We know they have basic electronics." "There's more, sir. We intercepted their transmissions. Our linguists have been analyzing their communications for the past rotation." Kexthor activated the holographic display, showing streams of intercepted data. Admiral, these humans, they're not what we expected. The display showed fragments of human media, translated into hegemony script. News broadcasts, entertainment programs, educational materials, personal communications between individuals across the planet. But what struck Zektar was not the content, but the sheer volume and complexity. They process information faster than our initial estimates suggested, Kexthor continued. Their global communication network carries more data in a single day than most primitive civilizations generate in a year. But that's not the concerning part. Explain. They're curious about us, sir. Their entertainment media is filled with stories about contact with alien civilizations. They've been preparing for our existence, theoretically, for decades. More importantly, they've been preparing for hostile contact. The display shifted to show what appeared to be human military exercises, but with scenarios that made Zektar's blood chill. Humans practicing defense against orbital bombardment, developing tactics for fighting technologically superior enemies, creating contingency plans for invasion by forces with advanced technology. They've been thinking about how to fight us before they even knew we existed, Kexthor said quietly. Impossible. They have no knowledge of galactic civilization. No direct knowledge, sir, but they've extrapolated from first principles. They assume that any species capable of interstellar travel would have military advantages they cannot match directly, so they've focused on asymmetric warfare, guerrilla tactics, and... Kexthor paused, his voice dropping. Weapon development. The display now showed human scientific research, and Zektar felt his confidence begin to waver. Nuclear physics that paralleled hegemony science, chemical engineering that surpassed several galactic species. And most disturbing of all, theoretical weapons research that made the veteran admiral's carapace prickle with unease. Sir, Kexthor continued, they've theorized about antimatter weapons, biological warfare agents that could survive in space, and something they call kinetic bombardment using their own planet's resources as projectiles. They've never built these weapons, but the theoretical framework exists. Theory means nothing without application, Zektar snapped, but his voice lacked conviction. With respect, Admiral, that's not entirely accurate. We detected what appears to be a test launch from their planet, a primitive spacecraft heading toward their system's asteroid belt. Our analysis suggests they're beginning to experiment with resource extraction in zero gravity. The implications hit Zektar like a plasma bolt. Space-based manufacturing, asteroid mining, orbital construction, the first steps toward true space-based civilization. Once humans learn to build in space, the resources of their entire solar system would become available to them. How long until they achieve meaningful space-based industry? Zektar asked. Based on their current rate of progress, perhaps 50 cycles, sir. Maybe fewer if they encounter significant motivation. The briefing chamber fell silent as Zektar processed this information. 50 cycles was nothing in galactic terms. Barely enough time for a single hegemony administrative review. In the time it would take to process the paperwork for a formal invasion, humans would advance from primitive rocket technology to industrial space operations. There's one more thing, sir, Kexthor said reluctantly. During our reconnaissance, we may have been detected. Zektar's head snapped up. Explain. One of their deep space observation facilities appears to have recorded our scout ship's passage. The data was encrypted and transmitted to multiple locations across their planet. They're analyzing it. What kind of analysis? Trajectory calculations, energy signature interpretation, materials analysis based on spectral emissions. Sir, within hours of detecting our ship, they had preliminary theories about our propulsion system and hull composition. Their scientific community is treating it as the most important discovery in their species' history. Zektar stared at the data streams flowing across the holographic display. Somewhere on that distant blue world, Human scientists were working around the clock to understand technology that had taken the hegemony centuries to develop. They were reverse engineering galactic science from a single sensor reading. "Recommendations?" Zektar asked. "Full withdrawal from the sector, sir. We should forget about that system entirely." But Zektar's pride would not allow such retreat. The hegemony had never backed down from a primitive world, had never allowed fear of potential future threats to prevent them from claiming valuable resources. To withdraw now would be to admit that humans posed a danger. And that admission would undermine everything the hegemony stood for. "Negative," Zektar decided. "We proceed with preliminary invasion preparations. If these humans are truly as dangerous as you suggest, then we eliminate them before they can develop further. A preemptive strike." "Sir," the eldest specifically commanded. "The eldest speaks in riddles and ancient fears," Zektar interrupted. "We are the hegemony. We have conquered species with technology far more advanced than anything these primitives possess. We will not be intimidated by theoretical threats and philosophical warnings." Sub-Commander Velnash leaned forward. "What are your orders, Admiral?" "Assemble the Third Fleet. We will conduct a demonstration of power, a show of force that will convince these humans to surrender without resistance. A single orbital bombardment of an uninhabited area should be sufficient to make them understand their position." "And if they refuse to surrender?" Kexthor asked. "Then we will remind the galaxy why the hegemony has never failed to claim a world we desire." The orders went out across the hegemony fleet network, and within days, 200 warships had assembled at the edge of human space. The Third Fleet represented more firepower than had been used to conquer the last 10 worlds combined, surely enough to intimidate any primitive civilization. As the fleet prepared to jump into the Sol system, intercepted human communications revealed that Earth's governments had detected the military buildup. Rather than panic or attempts at surrender, however, the humans had done something that chilled, even hardened hegemony warriors. They had begun to prepare. Every military base on the planet had gone to maximum alert. Scientific research stations were working in emergency protocol, sharing data globally in real time. Industrial facilities had switched to war production, manufacturing unknown devices according to plans that seemed to have existed long before first contact. Most disturbing of all, human civilian populations were not fleeing or hiding. They were organizing, local militias were forming, citizens were volunteering for emergency services, and across the planet, humans were demonstrating the same response pattern they had shown throughout their violent history. When threatened, they did not seek escape. They sought victory. "Admiral," reported the fleet's intelligence officer as they prepared to enter human space. "We're detecting massive electromagnetic activity across the human planet. They appear to be building something." "Military defenses?" "Unknown, sir. The construction is happening too fast and in too many locations to properly analyze. But the energy signatures suggest they're not just building defenses, they're building weapons." Zektar felt a chill run through his carapace, but his pride would not allow him to back down now. The fleet had been assembled, the invasion planned, the orders given. To the hegemony Third Fleet materialized at the edge of the Sol system in perfect formation, 200 warships arranged in the classic intimidation pattern that had brought surrender from countless worlds. Admiral Zektar stood on the bridge of the Dominance, expecting to see a primitive blue world cowering before galactic might. Instead, his sensors immediately began screaming warnings. "Admiral!" his tactical officer called out, voice cracking with disbelief. "We're detecting massive energy signatures throughout the system. The humans, they've been busy." The main display lit up with thousands of contact markers. What should have been empty space around Earth was now filled with structures, weapons platforms, and most impossibly, ships. "How many vessels?" Zektar demanded. "Sir, I'm reading over 3,000 individual craft, but they're different. not built like any ships in our databases. The human fleet was indeed unlike anything in galactic records. Where hegemony ships were massive, heavily armored behemoths designed to overwhelm through superior firepower, human vessels were small, fast, and built according to principles that made no immediate sense. They moved in swarms rather than formations, communicating through quantum-encrypted networks that the hegemony's best codebreakers couldn't crack. Impossible, Zektar muttered. Our intelligence reported they barely had chemical rockets 3 cycles ago. Sir, incoming transmission. They're hailing us. The main screen flickered, and suddenly Zektar found himself looking at a human face. The creature was smaller than he had expected, with soft features that suggested no natural weapons or armor. But the eyes held an intelligence that made the Admiral's carapace prickle with unease. Greetings, the human said in accented but understandable galactic standard. I am Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Force. Welcome to our solar system. Zektar's mandibles clicked in confusion. You speak our language. We've had 3 months to prepare since your scouts visited us. Learning languages is one of our specialties. We've also learned quite a bit about your technology, your military doctrine, and your history. Chen smiled, and somehow that simple expression carried more menace than a hegemony war cry. We know why you're here. Then you know that resistance is futile. Surrender now, and your species will be granted the mercy of slavery rather than extinction. Admiral Zektar, Chen replied, and the human's knowledge of his name sent another chill through the hegemony commander. We've studied your previous conquests. We know exactly how you treat primitive species. We respectfully decline your offer. You would choose certain death over the possibility of survival? We choose something your people have apparently forgotten, Chen said, her voice hardening. We choose to fight for our freedom, all of it. The transmission ended, and immediately the human fleet began to move. But their tactics were like nothing in hegemony experience. Instead of forming battle lines or defensive formations, the human ships scattered in seemingly random directions, only to regroup at impossible speeds around individual hegemony vessels. Tactical analysis, Zektar barked. Sir, they're using some kind of distributed coordination system. Each ship appears to be operating independently, but they're achieving group behaviors that require centralized planning. It's like fighting a single organism with 3,000 bodies. The first exchange of fire revealed the true scope of human innovation. Hegemony plasma cannons, designed to slice through the heaviest armor, struck human vessels that simply weren't there anymore. The human ships moved with impossible agility, their hulls apparently made of some kind of adaptive material that could shift its properties in real time. But it was the human weapons that truly shocked the hegemony forces. Instead of attempting to match alien energy weapons, humans had done what they always did. They had found a better way. Sir, we're taking fire from... I don't understand the readings. It's like they're firing pieces of space-time itself. Kinetic impactors accelerated to significant fractions of light speed, struck hegemony ships with the force of small stars. But these weren't simple projectiles. They were smart ammunition, guided by artificial intelligences that learned and adapted with each shot. How are they accelerating matter to these velocities? Zektar demanded. Unknown, sir. The energy requirements should be impossible for their technological level. What the hegemony didn't understand was that humans hadn't tried to match alien technology. They had transcended it. When faced with the reality of galactic-level threats, humanity had done what they had always done throughout their history. They had innovated beyond the constraints of conventional thinking. The human ships weren't powered by conventional reactors. They were using controlled quantum vacuum fluctuations, extracting energy directly from the structure of space-time itself. Their weapons didn't rely on exotic matter or rare elements. They used the fundamental forces of physics as ammunition. "Admiral," the communications officer called out, "we're receiving tactical data from the humans. They're teaching us about our own weaknesses." On the main screen, detailed analyses of hegemony ship designs appeared, highlighting critical vulnerabilities that even hegemony engineers had never noticed. The humans had studied the sensor readings from their scout encounter and reverse-engineered not just hegemony technology, but hegemony tactical doctrine. "They know exactly how to defeat us," the tactical officer whispered. But the humans weren't just demonstrating superior technology. They were demonstrating superior strategy. Instead of trying to destroy the hegemony fleet, they were systematically disabling ships, capturing crew members, and analyzing their equipment in real time. "They're learning from us," Zektar realized with growing horror. "Every exchange of fire teaches them more about our capabilities." A second transmission came from Admiral Chen, but now she wasn't alone. Standing beside her were representatives of a dozen Earth nations, each wearing the insignia of different military forces. The diversity that hegemony analysis had identified as a weakness was revealing itself as an overwhelming strength. "Admiral Zektar," Chen said, "we want you to understand something important. You see 12 different humans here, from 12 different nations, speaking 12 different languages. 3 hours ago, we had never worked together. But the moment your ships appeared in our system, we became one people with one purpose." Another voice joined Chen's, a man with different features and accent. "We have studied your empire's history. You conquer through division, turning populations against each other. This will not work with humanity." A third voice, a woman with darker skin and different clothing. "Every weapon you fire teaches us about galactic military science. Every tactic you employ shows us how the galaxy wages war. You are making us stronger with every moment of this conflict." "Impossible," Zektar snarled. "You are primitives. You cannot simply absorb thousands of years of technological development." "Watch us," Chen replied simply. As if summoned by her words, new contacts appeared on hegemony sensors. Massive structures were rising from Earth's surface, not ships, but something far more ominous. Orbital elevators, space-based manufacturing facilities, and most terrifying of all, weapons platforms that dwarfed anything in the hegemony fleet. "Sir," the sensor operator reported with a voice that shook with disbelief, "they're building additional ships, in real time, while we're fighting them." The human manufacturing capacity was beyond anything in galactic records. Entire spacecraft were being constructed in hours rather than cycles, each one incorporating lessons learned from the ongoing battle. But more than that, the humans were scaling up. Their newer ships were larger, more powerful, more sophisticated than their initial fleet. "They're using our own weapons against us," the tactical officer announced. "Those new ships are equipped with modified hegemony technology." The truth was even worse than Zektar could imagine. The humans hadn't just reverse-engineered hegemony science, they had improved it. Plasma weapons with better focusing systems, shield generators with superior efficiency ratings, propulsion systems that outperformed hegemony originals. "Admiral," came a new voice from the communications array. This time it wasn't Chen, but an elderly human with white hair and eyes that seemed to look directly through hegemony armor. "My name is Dr. Elizabeth Hawkins. I'm a theoretical physicist. I want to thank you for the wonderful learning opportunity you've provided us." "Thank us?" "For 3 months. We've been preparing for this moment based on limited data from your scout ship. But actual combat experience has taught us so much more. We now understand not just your technology, but your psychology, your tactics, your strategic thinking. We've learned how the galaxy wages war." The main display shifted to show tactical analyses that made Zektar's blood freeze. Complete breakdowns of hegemony military doctrine, detailed assessments of galactic military capabilities, strategic evaluations of interstellar warfare that showed understanding far beyond what any primitive species should possess. But more importantly, Dr. Hawkins continued, you've taught us about the galaxy itself. We now know we're not alone. We know there are thousands of species out there, many of them hostile. Thank you for helping us understand what we need to become. What you need to become. Protectors. Chen's voice rejoined the conversation. Not just of Earth, but of any species threatened by empires like yours. You've shown us that the galaxy needs someone willing to stand up to bullies. New contact signatures appeared on hegemony sensors. Not ships, but something that made even veteran space warriors step back in fear. Humans were building not just weapons, but mobile space stations, artificial habitats, and most ominously, ships designed not for defense, but for long-range operations. You're building an invasion fleet, Zektar said quietly. We're building a liberation fleet, Chen corrected. Your own databases, which we've accessed through your captured vessels, tell us about 17 worlds you've conquered in the past few cycles. Billions of sentient beings enslaved or killed. We can't allow that to continue. The hegemony admiral felt something he had never experienced in decades of conquest. Absolute defeat. Not just military defeat, but the crushing realization that his species had awakened something far beyond their ability to control. The eldest warned us. He whispered, "Yes," came a new voice, ancient and filled with cosmic weariness. They did. The communication channel expanded to include a third party. The energy signature was unmistakable. Somehow the eldest had joined the conversation. "Great eldest," Zektar stammered. "We did not mean to—" "You meant to conquer a primitive species and claim their resources," the eldest interrupted. "You ignored my warning because you believed technological superiority was the measure of true power. Now you have learned why I feared this day." "Honored eldest," Admiral Chen said respectfully, "we understand you tried to protect the galaxy from us. We appreciate the intention, but we can't allow threats to our species to go unanswered. I did not seek to protect the galaxy from you, young human. I sought to protect the galaxy from what you would become when threatened. You have evolved in 3 months what most species require millennia to achieve. You have transcended your limitations through pure necessity." The eldest's attention turned to the hegemony fleet, now completely surrounded by human vessels that outnumbered them 10 to 1. "Admiral Zektar," the ancient being continued, "you have approximately 17 minutes before human reinforcements arrive that will outnumber your fleet by 100 to 1. You have a choice to make." "What choice?" "Surrender unconditionally and face human justice, or attempt to flee and face human pursuit. I should warn you, they have already reverse-engineered your faster-than-light technology and improved upon it. There is nowhere in the galaxy you can run that they will not eventually find you." Zektar looked around his bridge at his officers, seeing his own defeat reflected in their faces. The hegemony Third Fleet, pride of one of the galaxy's most powerful military forces, had been utterly defeated by a species that had been primitive 3 months ago. I surrender," he said quietly. "A wise choice," Admiral Chen replied. "You and your crews will be treated according to the galactic conventions of war, which we've learned from your own databases. Your ships and technology will be studied to help us understand the threats facing peaceful species throughout the galaxy." The transmission ended, leaving Zektar alone with the terrible knowledge of what the hegemony had unleashed. Somewhere in the cosmic distance, he could hear the eldest's voice, faint but clear. "I gave you one command, children of the stars. Do not awaken Earth's fury. Now you will discover what that fury can accomplish when it reaches beyond a single world." As hegemony ships powered down their weapons in surrender, Human vessels were already accelerating toward the edge of the solar system, carrying liberation fleets toward 17 conquered worlds. The galaxy was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their weapons. It had always been their absolute refusal to let injustice stand unopposed, no matter how powerful the opposition. The age of human expansion had begun, and it would not end until every sentient being in the galaxy had the chance to live free. Retreat would be to face court-martial and execution for cowardice. "All ships," he broadcast to the fleet, "prepare for jump. We will show these primitives the meaning of galactic superiority." As the hegemony fleet prepared to enter the Sol system, neither Zektar nor his warriors understood that they were about to provide humanity with the greatest gift possible, a clear and present threat that would force them to evolve in ways that would reshape the galaxy forever. The eldest's warning echoed unheeded across the cosmos. Do not awaken Earth's fury. The Third Fleet jumped into human space, carrying 200 ships and 50,000 of the galaxy's most experienced warriors toward what they believed would be a simple conquest of a primitive world. They were about to discover that humanity's greatest strength had always been learning from their enemies, and that every alien weapon, every alien tactic, every alien advantage was about to become a human innovation. The galaxy was about to change forever, the eldest concluded, their voice carrying the authority of 7 million years of accumulated wisdom. Do not awaken Earth's fury. Do not give humanity a reason to look beyond their small blue world with anything other than curiosity and wonder. For if you do, if you threaten them or challenge them or even simply make them aware that they are not alone in a hostile universe. The eldest paused, and in that pause, every delegate felt the weight of cosmic truth settling upon them. You will discover that the greatest predators in the galaxy are those who learned to hunt while everything else was trying to kill them.